Welcome to Fake Book Club, where the books are fake, but we discuss them for real. If you love books but don't have enough time to read them, we're the podcast for you. I'll be your host, Moxy, and I started this group to find the ultimate Instagrammable book cover. I'm not only a client, I'm also a founder. Anyway, I'm so excited today to be joined by an amazing cast of book club members, Misty, Stoopy, and Maudie. Why don't we go around and do some introductions? Misty, how about you start?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Misty, MoxyFi. I've got a permanent to-read list, so if you ask me I'm my favorite author, I'll probably just blankly stare into the distance.
Welcome. And how about Stoopy? Stoopy?
I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Stoopy. I only read books if they're audiobooks. Reading is my passion, though, as long as it's listening to the dulcet tones of somebody else.
Let's move on to Maudie.
Hey, everybody. My name's Maudie. I'm an audio-focused book reader myself. I like a book that reads back to me, speaks in its own voice, really brings the characters of the characters and the voices of the narrative to me. Thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
Well, let's get right into it. Today's book of discussion, Dadding the Apocalypse, A Survivor's Guide to Parenthood. It's been trending on the post-apocalyptic New York Times. What did people think? Favorite tips and tricks? Best moments? How do you feel about Apocalypse Dad advising us on how best to survive with kid?
Yeah, so one of the things I like the most about that in the apocalypse is that the tips and tricks are useful for everyone, right? Not just those people who have children. Some of us are child-free by choice. We don't want to bring a child into this, interesting time we're currently living in.
Yeah, you don't have to be a dad in order to dad the apocalypse. And, for me, there were many tips and tricks that I found in the book that, my dad just didn't have time to teach me as we were sort of making our way through the world. So basic things like, repurposing a lawnmower into a legitimate weapon, these basic things that you'd usually have learned from your dad. I didn't get a chance to. So all of the little tips and tricks on how do you bring up a kid? In some ways, I felt like I was the kid being brought up. And so I thought that for me, there was a little bit of a healing process in there, even, I'd say.
Exactly. I mean, I still have my dad with me, but the tips about how to fortify, those are so useful.
On the topic of daddable moments, I actually also really appreciated some of the grilling recipes, like using motor oil and repurposing it as marinade honestly is such an inspired choice, right? Did anybody else try the radioactive iguana roasting recipe?
Oh, yeah, I definitely tried the recipe. And I gotta say, he's good at grilling. He's good at doing what Dad is supposed to do.
Yeah, the spices he put in are super useful for other types of food, too. You don't have to just use it on iguana. It's very good on a lot of things.
I thought that the sections that really worked well for me is I've got a little one of my own, and it's really hard when you're bringing a gray sort of piece of mystery meat to the table. And so all the tips and tricks for dressing up your meat using local herbs to make it look a little bit more realistic. I never thought of using leftover red food coloring to really bring that extra je ne sais quoi to the dinner table with mystery meats, right? And, they say you eat with your eyes first. And so, really being able to dress up my post-grilled meats has really made my little one more inclined to really tuck in. And the complaining's gone down a lot since I upped that visual quality.
You're right, though. It needs to smell good. It needs to look good. And it's really hard sometimes with some of this food to make it look, or smell good. But he's really got some good tips and tricks in the book.
On the note of excellent moments, the bedtime story section where, one of the stories is dedicated to the end of civilization, a breakdown of the downfall of society for kids and other simple-minded sentient creatures. He really takes some very complex ideas and turns them into layman's terms. Did he do a good job, or was this something that maybe he should have left alone as a topic? What do you guys think?
Not everybody was in the same place during the downfall, and reading his perspective of it and how to give that information to your kid. I'm not sure I actually agreed with some of the stories he came up with to make it easier for his kid to understand what was going on. It may be easier for someone who has a child to talk about this, but I think some of the stories were a little more gory than I was expecting.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a kid myself, but when I was reading it, I was like, man, some of these things would totally give me nightmares. Like, I don't know if I'd want to tell a kid. Maybe I was just grew up in a different time. Maybe it's a little different when you're born after the apocalypse, I guess.
Misty, actually, you're bringing a really great point in here, which is that Apocalypse Dad has been accused of being a very privileged survivor. He talks about having access to an RV, to fenced off and sheltered enclosed communities. That's not something every survivor has had. Like some of us are out there in the wasteland staying in doubt, trying to just make a living. You know what I'm saying? So how does that impact how relatable Apocalypse Dad is? Does that take away from the messaging, or is there something here that's universal to the human experience?
I wouldn't be caught dead in shorts nowadays. This is what I was thinking reading those chapters.
Could you, what do you mean by not being caught dead in shorts? Like,
the ability to get tetanus. I mean, there's so many sharp radioactive objects around here. You just can't risk it.
I can see why we might call this controversial, but for me, it just felt like, our Apocalypse Dad was addressing a very particular crowd. I thought that overall he was pretty inclusive and understanding of everyone having different capabilities, different advantages, but he was speaking to a crowd with more of them. The challenges you deal with if you're in a slightly more privileged group might be very different than the ones that you do when you're in less privilege. Tetanus wasn't as much of a concern. We grew up in my house in a little bit more of a privileged one, so I felt like I could really relate to Apocalypse Dad, but I could see how it would make others feel a little bit excluded from the narrative. So I get it, but for me, it really spoke to me as a relatable experience.
Yeah, I thought he did kind of touch on it a little bit, that he had a head start. Like, he mentioned that he had some weapons readily at hand and didn't have to make any himself. Like, he was talking about that big old machete, and he got lucky because it would have been a lot more trouble if he had to makeshift some weapons,
How important is inclusivity in the wasteland? We know Apocalypse Dad has an entire chapter dedicated to this, dadding the apocalypse, not just for guy dads anymore, also for other dads too.
Well, I felt the chapter was pretty inclusive. As a trans woman myself, I felt that the tips and tricks he had about how to make your own hormones if you need them were incredibly important and inclusive, and that made me pretty happy. I do think that, honestly, I think the name of the chapter was virtue signaling a little bit. It was maybe a little too much on the nose. But I feel like the chapter, specifically for me as one of those groups, was probably necessary. Otherwise, I might have written off the book.
Yeah, honestly, I actually thought that formula was pretty freaking impressive. And I think maybe like in one of the early chapters, he did make some sort of note about being like some sort of biologist or chemist or something. It was like a sentence somewhere. I don't.
Again, that touches on the privilege he had.
Yeah.
Because he came in with a good education, and he started on base 3, but honestly, he's helping people, so it's probably fine.
Listen, I hear you on a little bit of the virtue signaling, but I do want to say, in the beginning, we talked about how it really speaks to like not just having a child, being able to relate to this on a different level. I think this also speaks to the dad in all of us when he's talking about this. Like, he really wants everybody to relate to his struggles and to be able to see themselves in this book. And I think that chapter actually really helped me to see the dad in myself.
And in the breakdown of society, if we can have a little bit of kindness shown, even if it seems a little on the nose, feels like we can do with a little on the nose kindness. There's plenty of cruelness in the world right now.
That's true. It's just like a little bop on the nose there, just a bop.
it's fine. With all the marauders and raiders going around, it's really nice to have some kindness. Like you said, it's really cruel and kind of rough going on right now. It's not really the safest place to be these days. So
Yeah, I do agree. Part of what makes this really appealing and I think relatable is just those moments, those little moments. He gets really descriptive, changing a diaper by burning tire fire in the night, or those descriptions where you can almost smell the earthiness of human waste wafting up into your nostrils, and him talking about that little twinkle in his kid's eyes, that moment of connection between two human beings in the wasteland. I think that's a big part of why the book's so appealing. Like, we've all been there in the darkness of night and the cold and not knowing where your next meal is going to come from or if the raiders are going to attack again. And, feeling vulnerable is a big part of that. And just, despite its flaws, I think that he really is able to draw out those moments of connection and just be very present and bring you there. You get that feeling. I got feels, y'all.
Definitely warms the heart. And I think that's the thing that through this whole book, as we've been discussing, has really come together in my head. It's this optimistic tone and this ability to really bring us back to the core things that make us individuals, parents, and, civilized beings within a world gone crazy. And his attention to little details, like you said, the smell of a dirty diaper, the crackle of the fire on the leftover papers, they seem just so relatable, human, and it just really brought humanity back into this world for me. So it was just a nice little brush with humanity here.
what do you guys think of some of the tips and tricks he had for trying to identify if someone's a friend or foe when you're meeting them for the first time? Because I found them super helpful, and I've honestly been employing a decent amount of his techniques when trying to assess if someone was a marauder or not.
For me, it felt, I don't know, he's not a psychologist,
I mean, you're right.
And that's pretty clear in the way that he writes about these things. And frankly, it was the part that concerned me the most. So look, trying to tell the difference between marauder and friend, trying to learn that out of a book, you make one mistake and that's a machete and not a friend. And so, for me, I felt there was a lot of danger actually in that. For me, it was the most controversial part of the book. I just feel like this could get someone killed.
No, I understand you there, Madi. I was actually using this book to talk to some people across the way. I was screaming some of the lines he gave in the book to see if it helped me to identify them as marauders. Nearly got my head chopped off.
Oh, no.
I don't know if those were useful tips in there. I don't know if this book is for that.
To be fair, though, I think you did successfully identify the marauders.
Oh my God, you're right.
I just think that yelling, "Are you a friend?" is really not the pinnacle of what maybe we should use. But I agree. It can work in certain situations.
Okay, but you have to admit that "Are You a Friend" song is actually pretty cute. Like that little ditty for the kid.
Oh yeah, the little jingle he made for his kid.
Yeah.
That was pretty impressive.
Are you a friend?
Right?
Or are you a foe? Do you like me? I'd like to know. Please don't hurt me. You are my best friend. Please don't kill me, marauder.
Yeah. It's catchy, right? It's catchy.
Okay. It was stuck in my head for literally weeks after.
Did he sing it? Did he voice it in the audiobook?
Oh, no. There was a whole little section with the music notes and stuff, so you could kind of play it for yourself.
You know me. I can't read that type of stuff. I can't read those things.
I mean, look, it's the apocalypse. Getting your hands on a music recording device is kind of hard. A lot of it's just self-generated these days, right? And I thought it was cute.
Yeah, my friend did have to whisper it in my ear while we were running away from pirates, but it did come across really well in his voice.
It actually surprisingly works as a bedtime song too. That like comfort you get while you're running. I actually played it. I built a little 2-string banjo out of a pan and a couple of shoelaces, and I played it for my kid to get them to go to sleep. And it actually wasn't effective at all, but it made me feel better. So I did appreciate that.
That's good. But did you fashion that instrument out of any of the tips that you found in the book? I've been using his Molotov cocktail recipe to great success.
Yep, I absolutely used the fabrication section on musical instruments for this. I've also tried his DIY barricades. Amazingly effective.
Interesting.
Oh my gosh, the child-proofing your barricades and traps section was like honestly a revelation. Because like again, I don't have an actual child, but I do have a fur child. Right, like not a human child, but a fur child, which like in this era is like almost the same. Like
it's
some
the
of
same.
them, like their intellect. Like I swear he has the intellect of a toddler, if not better. He definitely looks at me with scheming eyes at night that glow, and the occasional whisper of like spell casting or whatever it is. Like usually it quiets down a little bit after midnight, but like whatever. But like what I'm trying to say is it's super important that you have the little latches so that your little ones can get out, but the big monsters get trapped. Like that was just, I don't know why I didn't think of it, but that's why Apocalypse Dad is Apocalypse Dad.
I didn't even think it was possible to childproof traps, but well, here we are.
I was the child on my way to the bathroom just a week ago when the ingenious warning tin can kicked that thing over, heard it go off, and instantly snapped my brain. And that's the trap.
Oof, that would have been ugly.
So I got myself redirected, but I could have gone into that pit.
Wow.
And, do you think my kid's going to pull me out of there? Well, I have one other fabrication piece I did try that I have to ask you all about. The socks with sandals boot cover modification that it came with the pattern for in the back of the book. I tried that. It really brought my dad in the apocalypse to new levels. I just need an apron with a pithy saying on it, and I can feel like I'm grilling at home again, So I was really impressed with that pattern, and I just feel so much more myself. But, you can't wear socks and sandals in modern day. Like, there's nails. So the mod cover, I don't know if any of you all tried it, but I loved it.
Yeah, I found this nice pair of combat boots that I've kind of been babying. But if I have to, I may look into that one. I might call you for some tips.
You let me know. I've made 3 different pairs now. I cycle them out. So, different colors for different times of day, different affairs,
How adjustable is that sizing scale?
Yeah. So the 2 leather straps that he includes that you bevel the holes into, they function a lot like an actual sandal strap. And so you can actually adjust the tension on them to meet your individual needs. Now, I will say this, like, if you need large sizing changes between the original pattern, that is going to involve doing some work yourself to make the math, but it is fairly close to one size fits all.
Oh, right. All right. That's actually really reassuring because I've been, my foot hasn't exactly been the same since we went through the swamps a few weeks back, and fairly sure that neon glow probably was radiation, and it's just, it's been swelling. It's about the size of a nutriweevil. I don't know if it's coming in as like a second or rather third, fifth appendage. But good to know I could operate without having to change into new footwear.
I've actually got a sixth finger coming in on my right hand, and you all know this about me. I'm a juggler, and you know what? That's like really, really brought me to another level, and just my ability to do tricks with 3 balls in one hand. So I'm pretty pleased with this modification. I got lucky here.
Oh, that reminds me. Weren't you inviting us to the next show, Maudie?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to shill for it on the the book club set. But if you're okay with it,
are you kidding me? I've got my cans of food here ready to go to toss at your heads for that entry fee.
Okay. All right. So here's the pitch. It's going to be down at the old circus tent, just like it should be. We've got it lit up in there nicely with so many candles. We've been searching for them for weeks to light it up there. We've got myself, a juggler. We've got a couple of apocalypse clowns coming in, well-trained in the modern apocalypse style. I'm really excited for them.
Where did you even find these guys?
It's like once you start sending out the signal for the circus people, they all start coming together. It's just like, we know each other when we see each other. Like I see a clown out on the street. I know a clown when I see one. We just sort of been getting together. My kid's even getting in on the act. She's starting to learn to do the silks. We don't have silks for her, of course, but you'd be amazed what a couple of ropes can do. So she's learning some cool tricks on the ropes.
So one of the travelers coming through actually said there might be a large giant spider infestation over at this old dispensary. You might want to check that one out. Could be a source for some good silks for you guys.
That's true. And we could capture one and have a beast tamer section of our show.
Wow.
Those giant spiders are pretty cool if you can get them trained.
Wow, you're going all out.
Yeah, well, we all know giant spiders are not easy, and you definitely want to pack up on your antivenoms and antidotes, but it could really take the show to the next level. Let me take a moment here, too, while I'm at it, to also appreciate just how much you guys really bring in terms of inspiration to the wasteland. You guys are like that little glowy light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not, another burning carcass fire.
To bring it all back full circle, that's what Dadding the Apocalypse did for me. And it was a real inspiration to get this show put together so that I can help bring some of the light that this novel brought to me to those around me. And so I think I've really got to give a shout out to Apocalypse Man for putting this book out and really inspiring me, and I'm sure others, to really find the light in the apocalypse and bring it to their communities.
No, I feel that.
I agree. Like we all have these like special things about us that we can bring and like use to bring some light to the darkness. And I really feel like this book encourages people to find what they can do, what they bring to help others. Like even if it's not being the perfect dad of the apocalypse like he is, even if it's just using his techniques to grow like better herbs for your food, anything you can bring forward, it's kind of what he reminded me of.
Yeah. To speak on that for a second, I did actually start bringing radioactivity items into my community so that we can create like a false sun inside the building. And it's gotten pretty big. I mean, I'm bringing a literal light into my community, and it seems to be going really well. I mean, there are some side effects. Obviously, there's always side effects, but what it brings is light. Our vegetables, way bigger than they used to be. A couple people have grown extra limbs. Those are extremely useful. The effects on this is just like, it's groundbreaking, and the effect this book put on me is equally as life-changing.
And Apocalypse Dad really teaches us to find that light in ourselves and that light in others. So it's beautiful.
So true.
Oh, I think I hear the rumble of war horns outside there. Before we all break up, any final words? How do you feel? What would be your recommendation of this book, Dadding the Apocalypse, for others?
I'm all for it. My line is, if you want to survive out there, there are so many tips and tricks in this book that can help you. Focus on the fortification chapter. And like Modi was talking about, the instrument fabrication chapter is incredibly helpful. I honestly have nothing but praise for this book. Anyone, with or without fur baby, or apocalypse baby, is going to find use in this book. This is great.
I would say it's great for the dad and everyone. Extremely useful stuff in there, especially even if it's not for you. Even the crafting stuff is useful. I mean, you're going to be using that out here. So yeah, I would say it's a great read.
I'd wrap it up as dadding with grace and love and a little bit of useful tips in the apocalypse. It brings you everything you need to know about surviving and being kind in this hellscape.
Thanks, everyone. It was great to have you. I will see you for the next Fake Book Club meetup.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Moxie.
Bye.